The prisoner first pries open a wooden panel on the wall, then takes out the mirror he had hidden, then breaks it with a spoon and picks out a long strip of glass. After this he wrapped the extra pieces in paper and threw them into the toilet. But before he could press the switch, the guard suddenly inspected the cell. In order not to be detected, the prisoner quickly threw the glass into his mouth, leaving only the residue in the toilet bowl to be disposed of. Fortunately, the two guards don't notice anything unusual, so when they leave, the prisoner takes out a toothbrush and a spool of thread, and ties them together with a mirror, thus completing a small observation mirror. In order to test the usability of the mirror, the inmates stuck it out through the cat's eye of the door, and when the image was refracted back through the mirror, they could not only see the movement of the guards, but also turn the mirror back and forth to observe the movement on the other side. After a brief test, they agreed that the mirror would be very useful for the next escape, so the inmates divided up the work. One inmate took charge of the lookout, another removed the leg of the bed and used it to chisel the floor, and the rest of the group moved the debris and pried the boards off the surface. Then he took the leg of the bed and took out the plaster. He then took the legs, wrapped them in a rag and began chiseling the concrete, in order to cover up the loud noise. Before the operation, the inmates had already conspired with the inmates in the next cell to break the toilet, so that as soon as they started to chisel the cement, they would repair the toilet at the same time, and the sound of the repairing of the toilet would cover up the sound of chiseling of the floor. With a few chiseling sessions, they were able to penetrate the floor without any danger. In order to verify that the sewer was open, the prisoners lit a piece of paper and threw it in, seeing that the fire was getting hotter and hotter, which proved that the tunnel was open, but they didn't know where it led to, so they had to wait until bedtime to go down there and find out what was going on. But before they could do that, they had to create two dummies out of cardboard boxes to fool the guards. As soon as the inmates pulled the rope, the boxes would mimic the movements of a human being and say hello to the guards. During the night check, two of the inmates will quickly hide in the blind spot while the guards open the cat's eye to make sure the cell is full. Looking at several people are waving and one covered with a quilt is wriggling. The guards think that all four people are in the cat's eye without any doubt, closed the cat's eye and left. After this test, the dummies they made could really fool the guards. When the guards left, the inmates immediately picked up the spoon on the table and unscrewed the screws on it, then pulled out the saw blade hidden in the crevice. With the tools in hand, the inmates lifted the hole they dug earlier in the morning, and the two of them went down in turn. The upper cellmate tied a rope to the stone and the other end to the ankle of his cellmate in order to collect information, and then covered the floor to ensure that everything was secure. After some exploration, the two men realized that there was a cellar down there, and if they wanted to leave through the sewers, they had to saw through the bars in front of them. Luckily, he was prepared for this, so he took out his hacksaw and started sawing. But in order to keep the guards from hearing the noise, the prisoners stopped every 15 strokes and quietly eavesdropped on the surrounding area. And will their escape plan ever make it out of prison? But this fence is made of metal. It cannot be sawed for a while, but only with the companion constantly alternating back and forth work. After half an hour of working together, they finally sawed through the bars, and then they couldn't wait to get through the window and into what looked like a basement. They tried to find a way out, but they couldn't find any, and all the exits were locked with iron gates. So the man had no choice but to restore the bars. Just then he found a pile of discarded window bolts that could be sawed down to make a key. But as soon as he sawed a couple of them, the sound of guards' footsteps came from above and the two of them hid in a hurry. It turned out to be two guards on duty to sneak down to smoke, and two people actually used the stacked way cleverly bypassed the guards searching. I thought the guards would leave immediately after a circle, but I didn't expect them to come back. The prisoners saw this and carefully circled back in the same way, and the guards did not find anything out of the ordinary. After watching the two men leave, the prisoner did not dare to have any delay, took out the saw from his pocket and continued to put in the work that had not been completed just now. After half an hour of cutting, he finally sliced through the piece of iron. Then he bent the piece of iron and carefully went to the iron door and inserted the key he had made. Under the prisoner's skillful twisting results, and the door lock was really opened. Then the two men took out the kerosene lamp they had prepared and lit it beforehand, and went into the sewer. There were many unknowns ahead, but they had to do it to be free. Fortunately, when they came to the first door, they found a pleasant surprise that all the locks here were universal. With the help of the master key, the prisoners had a smooth journey and soon arrived at their final destination. Then they entered the sewer with great excitement. When they came to the end, they realized that the exit was firmly blocked by cement. The inmates tried again, but the cement was very strong and could not be cut with ordinary tools. But the cement on the left and right sides was so bad that it was easy to cut through it if they could spend a few days on it. They could definitely get out of the prison and find the tools to do it tomorrow. By now it was already dawn and the guards were about to come to check the room, but the two men downstairs hadn't come back.